Hey everyone, welcome back to Warrior Codex. I'm Hamish, and today I'm going to be running through a series of flexibility and mobility tests that I put myself through to get a baseline of where I'm at in both flexibility and mobility to see where I need to improve over the coming months. These tests I will be running through, I'll explain them as I'm going, so you can do them yourself. They're in two categories. There is a series of tests for the lower body. So this is things like hips, ankles, knees, and there's a series for the upper body, which is more like trunk and shoulder mobility. Okay, so my first test I'm going to be doing is a squat test. Just checking my squats depth and range of motion. So hands out in front, just going to go all the way down, up, and side view, and up. Second test is the ankle flexion and dorsiflexion test to see what kind of the range of motion is with the ankle moving forward and backwards. So I'll set this one up on the wall here. I have a ruler, there's a 30 centimeter ruler. Place my toes on the ruler and push my knee towards the wall, keeping my heel on the ground until I can find the spot where my knee touches the wall. Just moving backwards, bit by bit. And that's about the extent there, which is 14 centimeters. Okay, next two tests are for the internal and external rotation of the hips. So for the first one, we'll check the external rotation. Put one leg out straight, my other leg comes on top, just resting my ankle above the knee here. Now this is the passive external rotation of this leg, and this gap here measures how far I've got to go. So if I put my ruler here, so I'll just take a measurement now from I'll just look at the top of the knee here, and I'm sitting just above or around, if I just put my finger here, it's above the 30 centimeter mark. 30 is here, and I'm up here somewhere. Okay, other side. Pop my ruler on the outside here. Ankle in the same spot, just above the kneecap. Pop that there, and once again, this one seems to be a little tighter, but pretty much at the top of the ruler there if I'm using both my fingers. So only slightly more though. Just measure the top point here. So I have a bit of work to do on these ones. Now, internal rotation. So for internal rotation, what you can do is if you can set up yourself in one of these squats, these kind of low resting squats, what you do is you take the knee of the leg you're going to test and you move it towards the floor. If you can touch the floor and come back up, then you've got good internal rotation. And that one as well. So I can move them down and up without too much of an issue. So my internal rotation here is pretty good. Okay, so the next test is testing the flexibility of the hip flexors and the quads. Now obviously there are quite a few muscles that make up the hip flexors and there are quite a few that make up the quads. But what we're doing with the box here is we're testing to see if one or the other may be the cause of tightness or weakness. So, while in the box, bringing the knees up to the chest. Now what I want to do is I want to lower one leg while keeping the other one to the chest. So I'll hold onto my left one, and I'll lower my right one down. Now I want it to be able to fall past 90 degrees here. If I can do that, that means my hip flexors are nice and loose. If you're stuck here, your hip flexors are tight. But how do you tell if it's quads versus hip flexors? Well, if you get to here, you can then straighten the leg and see if it falls further down. If you can do this with both a straight leg and a bent leg, you're good in both categories. However, if you straighten your leg and lower it and it gets stuck here, quads are tight because the quads cross the knee joint. If, however, you bend, you take the quads out of action and then you're just using the hip flexor muscles, such as the psoas. And then you let it go and you see if you can get past 90. Okay, for the next one, I'm going to test my side splits. Doing this because it is a good test for my kicking height. So I'm just going to walk my feet out and see how far down I can get before it stops, which is about here. So I'll be able to look back at this after doing some flexibility training and see whether I have improved. The next one I'm going to do is a straddle sit and reach. So I'm going to take the straddle position, and I'm going to place my heels on this line of the mats just here, just for an indication. I'm then going to take my ruler and place it on the line as well. And from here, I'm going to hinge from the hips, keep my back up in that neutral spine, and then lean forward. And so I can reach just past the end of the ruler. And the ruler is 30 centimeters here. So we're looking at about 32 centimeters. Get a bigger ruler next time. Okay, so this one is going to be a standard sit and reach, which is conducted with your feet together. Back up in that neutral spine, hinging forward. I can get to kind of that thumb knuckle on the wrist there. And then from the side view, up straight, neutral spine, hands out, hinging forward, like so. Okay, so this test is for the strength of the hip flexors. Starting with a box or chair, couch, any object, and place one foot on it. Now I should have my knee slightly above my hip, so above that 90-degree mark. This is important because up to 90 degrees, all of the muscles through the quads and the hip flexors are engaged, but above 90 degrees, it's only the hip flexor muscles that are engaged. So by being above 90 degrees here and then lifting my knee, I'm only using my hip flexors. So hands in the air, and the test is to lift my knee up like this using the hip flexors and hold it for 15 seconds. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And left leg. So once again, hands up. Hands up is important because it lets you take out the trying to almost lean back motion that you may use to try and get that knee higher. So I keep my arms up straight and using just the hip flexors to lift the knee. Okay, so the next test I'm doing is for the shoulders. What I'm going to be doing is popping my heels and my back against the wall. Now I want to take my lower back, so right now it's rounded, I can fit my hand through here. I want to hollow that out, so I'm going to try and rotate my pelvis this way, like this, to put your lower back against the wall. Stand here, take your hands, put the backs of your hands to the wall. From here, I'm going to slide my hands up the wall to the point where I can't move my shoulders anymore, or the point where my lower back comes off the wall. So I get stuck here. If I want to go any further, I have to arch my back to complete the motion, which means that my shoulders from about here are tight, and that's something I need to work on. Next shoulder mobility test is to test the rotation from the front to the back. To do that, I have got myself a flexible measuring tape. I'm going to start by placing my left hand, or your right, up to you, on the 10. Why? Because if you place it on the 1, you're going to be off the end of the tape. So I'll start by grabbing the 10. I'm then going to place my hands together in front and slide my hands apart. Doesn't really matter how far. I've slid to 50 there, so that's a 40 centimetre gap in the middle. I'm then going to move my hands up and try to move them above me. When you get to the point where you're stuck, loosen, in my case the right hand, and slide it down the tape until you can move your shoulders right through. And then back again. So I now look at the tape and I can see my other thumb's at 132. With a 10 off the start, that means I have a 122 centimetre gap in the middle of my shoulders here. So another test to see that, something else I'll work on is to try and reduce this over time so that my shoulders can get through with a smaller gap. Okay, the third shoulder mobility test is to test the ability to reach up and over and up and behind the back. So the test we're going to conduct is to try and touch our hands behind our back. To measure this, I have the flexible measuring tape again. So I will take my left hand and I once again place it on the 10. I'm then going to put my left hand over my back and take my right hand and move it up this way. So as you can see, I'm trying to get my hands as close together as possible. As close as I can get, I'm going to grab the measuring tape, which is there. Measuring tape says 17, which means I have a 7 centimetre gap between my hands just then. The goal is going to be able to interlink them. And now I'll repeat the same test and do it on the other side. So once again, my thumb's on the 10, right arm goes over top, left hand goes up behind, and I'm pushing down with this, up with this, to try and connect them. So that one was a 12, so there's only a 2 centimetre gap on that side, showing that I have left shoulder is tighter through the top, and either the right shoulder is tighter through the bottom, or potentially just the left shoulder. And I do know that I had my left shoulder has been injured in the past, and I do have tendonitis in it, so that would probably be this reach here that has caused that discrepancy. But something to work on. Potentially, even though the left shoulder up this way could also be a problem. Okay, so I'm now moving on to some back mobility tests. First test I'm going to do is to test my ability to essentially arch my back and kind of extend through the thoracic spine, which is kind of the middle part of the back. The ability to do this motion here. So to test that, what I've got is a stick. I then take a lying position, like such. I have my stick, and I have a measuring ruler in front of me. Place your hands on the stick, and then you want to, from lying flat on the ground, you need to arch your back, lift your shoulders, and see how high you can move the stick up. So if I get a little closer so I can touch the ruler, I'm going to, from the ground, lift up. 46. For the second torso mobility test, we're going to be testing thoracic rotation. So how far you can twist through the body. Now I'm doing this seated because I've seen the test done standing, but with standing, there is the potential that you actually can start to dip the knees and the hips to get more rotation out of it. Whereas if you're seated, you can't use the knees and the hips the same. So we'll be testing just the torso. Take a stick, just a comfortable grip, and we're going to put it behind our head. Even grips. And the 28. And the 33. So the 28 is 5 centimeters, and the 33 is 8 centimeters. So I am tighter, rotating to my left side. So once again, thank you for watching. I hope I've either inspired you or taught you something, and I'll see you in the next video.